Are you serious? Are you serious? Folks, there's an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council going on as we speak. Now, France has put up a resolution that they want to pass. Russia's resisting that. Let me read to you an article here. Russia faces the United Nations Security Council showdown over Syria. Remember, folks, people are dying there, and they are dying. They're being slaughtered. Well, French foreign minister said Russia faces a moment of truth over its bombing campaign in Syria. Matter of fact, the United Nations Security Council on October the 8th, that's today, will vote on two competing resolutions to stop fighting in Syria. One's from Russia, the other's from France. These are the two different resolutions. In a showdown that's likely to end in a diplomatic stalemate. The Council will first vote on the French proposal to stop all aerial bombardments on Aleppo by Russian and Syrian forces in a move designed to put Russia on the spot by forcing it to defend the killing of hundreds of civilians if, as expected, it vetoes the measure. The council debate is likely to feature some accusations from U.S. Secretary of State John F. Kerry and other top Western leaders that Russia and Syria are guilty of war crimes for intentionally bombing hospitals and civilians in Aleppo. Now, that's what the Western media is trying to do. That's what the U.S. government and the French are trying to do. Now, Russia's saying, look, we're not bombing hospitals and civilians. That's being done by ISIS or the Free Syrian Army, which is supported by the Americans. So this is where we're at. The vote will be a moment of truth for all members of the Security Council, according to the French foreign minister. Quote, do you want a ceasefire in Aleppo? Yes or no? And the question is in particular for our Russian partner. But Russian officials made no secret that they would veto the French resolution, saying it amounts to asking for a unilateral withdrawal from the fighting because rebel ground forces could continue to bomb government strongholds in Aleppo. So, quote, we see this as a political blackmail attempt, says Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei. He told the Interfax news agency. Unfortunately, there has been less and less common sense in Washington and Paris, and their actions, the stakes are extremely high. Following the vote on France's proposal, the UN Security Council will vote on a Russian resolution, urging the immediate implementation of a U.S.-Russian ceasefire agreement that was abandoned last month in a result of escalation of fighting in Aleppo. How did it get abandoned? And I covered this last month. The United States, during the ceasefire, bombed Syrian troops, killing 62 and wounding 100. And that allowed the ISIS terrorists to then take a very strategic location following the attack by the U.S. on the Syrians. 63 were killed, 100 were wounded. Now, this is a cynical attempt to divert attention away from the bombing of Aleppo, says the British UN ambassador. Russia continues to insist that its bombing campaign is targeting the terrorist. And then yesterday, the Russian Defense Ministry said it had killed about 35,000 militants in Syria since last year, including 2,700 Russians who joined ISIS. Okay? Fighting in Syria. So Russia's even saying, look, we killed 2,700 of our own soldiers who defected, or not defected, but people who left Russia and went to fight for ISIS. Now, as an alternative to its own resolution, Russia is also backing a proposal by the UN's Syrian envoy to help Al-Qaeda-linked militant groups evacuate from Aleppo so it no longer poses an excuse for Russia and Syria to keep bombing the city. So Russia's saying, look, let's just let Al-Qaeda leave. Safe passage. Let these guys out. Then maybe we can stop the bombing, because then they're not there. But the United States and and the UN Security Council doesn't want to give the terrorist safe passage. So what? So then Russia says, then we have to keep fighting. Okay, so you can see this thing is at a stalemate because forget the poor people of Damascus and of Aleppo. This is about U.S. and Russia fighting a proxy war in the Middle East. What's at stake? The oil. What else is at stake? Neighbors to border of Israel. And both countries, remember, Russia did not bring about the Arab Spring. That was done by the Obama administration with Hillary Rodham Clinton. But it is Russia who jumped in and stopped it after Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen had fallen, and Syria was bound to fall. And it was Russia that said, no, that's enough. And then from that, we've had an escalation of war, really a proxy war between the United States and Russia. Meanwhile, Russia did annex Crimea. They did. And got 90,000 troops along the border of Ukraine and NATO, and for another 40,000 troops along the borders with NATO. So there is a lot of guns pointed at a lot of people's heads. What you have here is a perfect storm for World War III. If cooler heads don't, if we don't get a real leader, Obama's not the guy. Okay, forget Obama. He can't do it. So you got to have a real leader that can sit down with the Russians and say, guys, let's you and I come to an agreement. We cannot let this continue. This is a bloodbath. How can we compromise and make it work for everybody? We need a leader who can step up and do that. You decide. You're going to. And either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, one of them, is going to be the one with the opportunity to have that meeting with Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, the blood continues to flow in the streets of Damascus, and the children continue to suffer and die. Give your life to Jesus Christ, because this is all part of the end times right now. It's almost like the Battle of Gog and Magog is about ready to happen.